As the dim bulb hanging precariously from the ceiling flickered, casting long, dancing shadows that mimicked the monsters of my darkest fears, a strange, exhilarating calm settled over me. Holding the smartphone, a piece of technology one often felt bewildered by, I recognized it as my only connection to the world beyond these damp, concrete walls. This wasn't just a device for emergency calls, as Michael had dismissively categorized it. It was my eye, my ear, my voice. It was the instrument of my liberation. It was the way I would uncover the chilling truth of what was happening in my own home, even as I was unjustly imprisoned within it. A little over 2 months earlier, driven by the gnawing suspicion that had taken root in my heart after a series of inexplicable disappearances, I had taken matters into my own hands. My antique cameo brooch, a cherished heirloom from my mother, had vanished from my bedside table. Then, a small, intricate porcelain thimble, a gift from Arthur on our first anniversary, had inexplicably disappeared from its velvet-lined box. Each time, Amanda's dismissive explanations and Michael's placid acceptance had eroded my sense of reality. "Eleanor, you must have simply misplaced it. It happens at your age," Amanda would say, her voice dripping with condescending sweetness, a practiced pity that always made my skin crawl. They made me doubt my own mind, my own memories, a terrifying psychological torture that left me feeling unmoored, adrift in a sea of manufactured confusion. But the final straw, the spark that ignited a desperate need for tangible proof, was the disappearance of my cherished leather-bound diary. It wasn't just a book, it was a chronicle of my life since I was 17. Pages filled with my most intimate thoughts, my youthful dreams, the quiet joys and crushing sorrows that had shaped my journey. I had pressed dried flowers between its pages, taped in faded tickets from memorable concerts and plays. This diary was a part of my soul, a tangible link to the woman I was, the life I had lived. When it vanished from its customary spot in my dresser drawer, a cold, hard certainty replaced the swirling confusion. I searched my room meticulously, then ventured beyond, as much as I dared, into the common areas of the house, my movements furtive, my heart pounding. The diary was gone. When I tearfully confronted Michael, he merely shrugged, muttering about old notebooks and accidental cleanouts. But I knew, with an absolute, unwavering certainty, that I would never, ever discard my diary. It was a piece of me they had stolen, a deliberate act of erasure. That's when I called Eleanor. Not my daughter, but my dear friend, Eleanor, who lived across town. Her son, David, owned a security technology company. When I cautiously explained my unsettling experiences, the disappearing objects, the feeling of being subtly undermined, Eleanor listened without judgment. Her voice, calm and steady, offered not pity, but solidarity. A few days later, while Michael and Amanda were conveniently out for the afternoon, Eleanor arrived with David. He moved with quiet efficiency, explaining the small, almost invisible devices. We strategically placed 3 miniature cameras. One, cleverly disguised as a common USB phone charger, was plugged into an outlet in my bedroom, its tiny lens aimed discreetly at my dresser and closet. Another found its home nestled among the vibrant plastic leaves of a faux fern in the living room, its view encompassing the mantelpiece where the remnants of my decor once proudly stood. The third, a subtle dome, was tucked away behind a large rack of spices on the kitchen wall, offering a wide view of the main activity area. David had patiently walked me through the setup over the phone days prior, ensuring I understood how the motion-activated camera streamed directly to a secure application on my smartphone. He even showed me how to capture screenshots and recordings. An unspoken, powerful instinct had warned me to keep this surveillance a profound secret. And so, for the past few weeks, I had meticulously maintained my silent vigil, a spy in my own home, initially searching for the culprit behind the petty thefts. I had no idea that my humble quest for missing trinkets would lead me to stand on the very precipice of a chasm, about to uncover a conspiracy so vile it threatened to consume what was left of my life, my sanity, and my soul. The phone, vibrating in my pocket, was not just a tool, it was a lifeline, imbued with the desperate hope of a woman pushed to the edge. With trembling fingers, I opened the camera application. The screen split into 3 live feeds, broadcasting real-time activity from various corners of the house. The living room was already bustling, a vibrant tableau of laughter and conversation that felt jarringly distant from my damp, silent confinement. I counted around 15 guests, mostly Amanda's polished salon acquaintances and a handful of Michael's perpetually unremarkable coworkers. My lovingly baked apple pie sat untouched on the dining table, a lonely, golden sentinel overshadowed by an extravagant array of store-bought gourmet canapés and gleaming salads, a testament to Amanda's superficiality. I focused on the living room feed, turning up the volume. The music was loud, a throbbing bass that vibrated through the floorboards, yet I could still discern snippets of conversation when voices drew near the strategically placed camera. "Where's your mother-in-law tonight, Amanda?" I heard a woman with shockingly red hair, a newcomer to their circle, inquire with a casual air. Amanda's response was a theatrical roll of her eyes, a gesture of exasperated relief. "Oh, Eleanor's at a friend's place, thank heavens. Honestly, it's such a blessed relief to have an evening without her endless, dreary stories about my dear Richard." A collective chuckle rippled through the small group, and they drifted away, their laughter echoing hollowly in the vast chamber of my humiliation. My cheeks burned, a visceral reaction to the casual dismissal of my late husband and the narrative of my perceived tediousness. The sheer audacity, the callousness, was breathtaking. I switched my gaze to the kitchen feed. Michael was at the counter, clumsily wrestling with a corkscrew, attempting to open a bottle of red wine. Martha, our kind next-door neighbor, a woman roughly my age with whom I occasionally exchanged pleasantries across our shared fence, approached him. "Michael, dear, where's Eleanor tonight? I brought her a little something." My son froze, caught off guard, then turned, a strange, forced smile plastered onto his face. "Oh, Mom? She's visiting a friend in Riverside. You know, Mom's been so terribly social lately." He chuckled, a brittle, unnatural sound, as if delivering a pre-rehearsed line. "Oh," Martha's expression sagged with genuine disappointment. "That's odd. She left on her birthday?" Michael's forced smile faltered, his face blanching slightly. "Her birthday," he repeated, a tremor in his voice. "Oh, right. Yes. We celebrated in advance last weekend. A small family dinner, just her favorite way to celebrate." Lies. Pure, unadulterated falsehoods. Michael and Amanda had spent the previous weekend at a lavish coastal resort, leaving me alone with Jessica, who, in turn, spent most of her time at a friend's house. Martha, though nodding politely, clearly harbored lingering doubts in her eyes. "Well, please give her this when she gets back," she said, extending a small, wrapped package. "It's just some lavender tea. Eleanor mentioned once that she adored it." My eyes welled with hot tears. A mere acquaintance, a stranger really, remembered my preferences and my birthday better than my own son and his calculating wife. The weight of this realization pressed down on me, heavier than any physical confinement. I swiped my finger across the screen, toggling through the camera feeds. Jessica sat hunched in a corner of the living room, absorbed in her phone, a picture of teenage boredom. She had always loathed Amanda's parties. Too many adults, too many forced smiles, too many strained conversations. My attention was suddenly seized by a new guest entering the front door. A tall, lean man with dark, slicked-back hair and sharp, angular features, impeccably dressed in a tailored, expensive suit that seemed oddly out of place amidst the casual chaos of a home party. My heart plummeted. It was Daniel Campbell, my financial advisor. The man Michael had introduced to me 5 years ago, after Arthur's passing, as a trusted professional, who would help me manage the substantial proceeds from the sale of my Maple Avenue home. I had been too numb with grief, too overwhelmed by loss, to question Michael's judgment. Daniel had always visited quarterly, presenting dense reports filled with numbers and graphs that meant little to my grieving mind, but his confident assurances that my investments were in excellent shape had always been enough. Now, seeing him here, at a casual party, a cold dread snaked through me. Why was he here? Michael had never seemed particularly close to him, certainly not socially. Amanda's greeting of Daniel was overly effusive, a performative display of affection that sent a shiver down my spine. She pecked him on the cheek, a gesture too intimate for mere acquaintances, and linked her arm through his, pulling him deeper into the crowded room. But it was their shared glances, quick, conspiratorial flashes when they thought no one was watching, that truly arrested my attention, glances far too knowing, too intimate for a professional relationship. I shifted the camera to the kitchen, where they soon gravitated, standing a little too close by the large, impersonal stainless steel refrigerator. "You're late," Amanda purred, her voice devoid of reproach, laced instead with playful accusation. "The meeting ran late," Daniel replied, a furtive glance over his shoulder. "Where is she?" "Don't worry, the old woman's locked in the basement," Amanda grinned, a cruel, triumphant glint in her eyes. "Thinks it's because of the party. She has no idea that her precious son has agreed to send her to Silverwood House as early as next month." Silverwood House. The name, vaguely familiar, slammed into me with the force of a physical blow. It was a nursing home on the outskirts of Willow Creek. Not a notorious facility, but certainly not a high-end, luxury retirement community. I was going to be sent there, without my knowledge, without my consent. A wave of nausea washed over me, but I forced myself to remain still, to listen. "Is everything ready?" Daniel pressed, his voice low, urgent. "Paperwork? Power of attorney?" "Michael will take care of it next week," Amanda said, her voice dripping with cold contempt. "The lawyer's already drawn up the documents. The old woman won't even know what she's signing. We'll just tell her it's a renewal of her insurance, or some medical update." My blood ran cold. "And if she says no?" Daniel's question hung in the air. Amanda merely shrugged, a predatory gleam in her eyes. "Then plan B. You've seen how absent-minded she is sometimes. Forgets to turn off the stove, locks herself in the bathroom. A couple more of those incidents, and even the most cautious judge would declare her incompetent." My breath hitched. I never forgot to turn off the stove. I had never, not once, locked myself in the bathroom. Were these incidents manufactured? Had they truly gone this far in their twisted, ruthless pursuit of my expulsion? "Are you absolutely sure Michael is fully on board with this?" Daniel's voice, barely a whisper, carried a note of lingering doubt. "He's a weakling," Amanda scoffed, her disdain palpable. "Of course, he has his moments of hesitation. She is his mother, after all. But he wants this house unencumbered by an old woman. And most of all, he wants the money. Didn't you say there's still a considerable sum left in her accounts, what she didn't pour into this house?" Daniel nodded slowly. "About $180,000, plus Richard's monthly pension and her life insurance payouts. Not a fortune, no, but certainly enough to pay for Silverwood House for several years, and leave plenty left over for your home improvements. Perhaps even a new car for you, dear." My money. The life savings Arthur and I had meticulously built over decades, his hard-earned pension, his legacy, all would be funneled into Amanda's new car, while I languished in a facility chosen for its affordability. A searing, incandescent rage ignited within me, pure and undiluted. Not just resentment, not just disappointment, but a consuming fury. How dare they? How dare my own son participate in this grotesque charade? Their hushed, vile conversation was abruptly interrupted by the unexpected arrival of Jessica in the kitchen, clearly foraging for a soda. Amanda and Daniel instantly sprang apart, adopting poses of exaggerated casualness. "Jessica, darling, what are you doing in here?" Amanda asked, her voice syrupy sweet. Jessica mumbled a response about looking for a drink, her eyes carefully avoiding theirs. Amanda directed her to the living room, where only wine and sparkling water were offered. Jessica insisted on Coke, her teenage defiance evident. Daniel, with a sudden, unsettlingly gentle tone, interjected, offering Jessica a Coke, a subtle wink accompanying his words. I watched, a cold knot forming in my stomach, as Jessica flinched almost imperceptibly, before grabbing the can and hurrying away. There was something profoundly unsettling in Daniel's gaze towards my granddaughter, something predatory, a flicker of something I couldn't quite name but instinctively recoiled from. This brief, unnerving exchange added a terrifying new dimension to their already monstrous scheme. I switched the camera feed back to the living room, where Michael was now engaged in conversation with a portly coworker in a plaid shirt. "So, Michael, how's your mother doing? Still living with you?" Michael sighed, taking a long sip of his drink, his face strained. "For now, yes. But we're seriously considering a nursing home for her. She'd be better off there, truly. Professional care, structured activities, socialization with her peers." A sickening wave of nausea washed over me. "Is she okay with that?" the coworker asked, a hint of concern in his voice. "Not really," Michael grimaced, his words slurring slightly. "But frankly, she doesn't have much choice. Her money is mostly tied up in this house, and it's not in her name. Legally, it's our property now. Amanda's already found a decent place for her, with a nice garden and everything." "Doesn't sound cheap," the coworker observed. "No," Michael agreed, his voice regaining a touch of false conviction. "But Mom has her pension, and some savings. And as Amanda always says, she's done enough for us. It's our turn to decide what's best for her." I couldn't believe my ears. Our turn? After everything I'd given, after selling the cherished home where I had lived most of my life, where every corner resonated with Arthur's presence, after surrendering almost all the proceeds from that sale, leaving myself with only a small, carefully hoarded emergency fund. Outrage consumed me, a burning inferno, but it was inextricably mingled with a paralyzing fear. If they truly succeeded in declaring me incompetent, as Amanda had so chillingly implied, I would be stripped of all legal rights. They would wield absolute power over my money, my living arrangements, my very existence. I would be a ghost, not just in my own home, but in my own life. I switched the camera back to the kitchen, where Amanda was now animatedly conversing with her blonde salon friend, a woman adorned with an excessive amount of glittering jewelry. "So, if everything goes according to plan, we'll have the house all to ourselves by the end of the summer," Amanda chattered, her voice brimming with anticipation as she refilled their wine glasses. "I've already picked out a designer for the renovation. I want to completely remodel the first floor, tear down that dreadful wall between the kitchen and dining room, create one huge, open space." The blonde's eyes, wide with feigned admiration, shifted. "What about Eleanor's room?" she ventured. "Oh, that," Amanda grinned, a predatory gleam in her eyes. "That will become my personal spa area. Jacuzzi, sauna, massage table, I've always dreamed of such a sanctuary." The thought of my quiet, sunlit room, the last vestige of my personal space, being transformed into a monument to Amanda's self-indulgence, was like a physical assault. "Is Michael truly comfortable with putting his mother in a nursing home?" the blonde pressed, a faint flicker of concern finally crossing her heavily made-up face. "He always seemed like such a devoted son." Amanda snorted, a derisive sound. "Michael's a wimp. Of course, he has his bouts of filial guilt, but in the end, he always does what I say, especially when it comes to money." She lowered her voice conspiratorially. "Plus, I reminded him that if we sell the house, we can finally buy that ridiculous boat he's been dreaming about for the last 5 years. Men are so predictably shallow." The blonde giggled, but her laughter held a note of discomfort, a faint tremor of unease. "Still," she murmured, "locking your mother-in-law in the basement, wasn't that a bit extreme?" Amanda merely shrugged, a dismissive flick of her wrist. "Oh, come on. She was perfectly safe down there. Besides, it was the only way to have a proper party without her endless stories and incessant wailing. You remember the last time? She spent 2 hours regaling everyone with how she met her dead husband. I nearly died of boredom. My own story. The cherished memory of meeting Arthur at that roller skating rink dance in 1978, the playful dare to ride the terrifying Gravitron, our endless conversations on a park bench by the lake until the first blush of dawn. To Amanda, it was nothing more than a boring anecdote from an old woman. To me, it was a priceless treasure, etched into the deepest chambers of my heart. Their casual cruelty, their utter lack of empathy, was a monstrous revelation. My phone vibrated, a jolt that pulled me from my seething rage. It was a message from Talitha. "Mom. I've contacted the police," her text read, direct and urgent. They are sending a patrol to your house. Should be there in about 20 minutes. I also talked to the lawyer, Adam Lawrence. He's filing an emergency restraining order prohibiting anyone but you from accessing your finances. It's a temporary measure, but it'll give us time to sort everything else out. A rush of overwhelming gratitude, so potent it brought fresh tears to my eyes, washed over me. Thank you, darling, I whispered, though she couldn't hear me. You organized everything so quickly. A new message popped up. It's my job, Mom. I'm already in the car. I'm on my way to you. Stay in touch and keep recording everything that happens. When the police arrive, they'll call me, and I'll explain the situation to them in more detail. We exchanged hurried goodbyes, and a strange, unburdened calm settled over me. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, I was not alone. I had a daughter who believed me, a fierce advocate willing to fight on my behalf. I had a plan, a lifeline to justice. I went back to the camera app, meticulously observing the winding down of the party. Guests were beginning to depart, their cheerful farewells echoing through the house. I watched Daniel approach Amanda, whispering something conspiratorial in her ear. She frowned, then nodded, and they ascended the stairs together to the second floor, their private conversation beyond the reach of my cameras. The sickening thought that Amanda might be betraying Michael, not just financially but intimately, with his supposed friend, added another layer of disgust to my already overflowing cup of revulsion for her. Michael remained in the living room, sluggishly seeing off the last stragglers, his movements betraying the effects of too much alcohol. Martha, our neighbor, lingered, her eyes full of genuine concern. It was a lovely party, Michael, she said, but I'm still quite upset I didn't get to wish your mother a happy birthday in person. Michael mumbled a hasty apology, promising to deliver her gift. Please, Martha insisted, and tell her I'm always glad when she stops by for a cup of tea. She seems so withdrawn lately, I worry about her. Michael's response was too quick, too dismissive. There's nothing wrong with her, Martha. It's just age, you know. Getting more withdrawn, less social. Martha's gaze was skeptical, but she didn't press. As she finally departed, Michael sighed heavily, collapsing onto the sofa, his head lolling back. He looked utterly exhausted, and perhaps, just perhaps, a flicker of guilt crossed his features. Maybe, just maybe, deep down, he still remembered the love for his mother. Maybe not all was lost. That fragile hope was swiftly extinguished as he pulled out his phone, a small, knowing smile spreading across his lips, and began scrolling through what looked like luxury yacht club websites and boat catalogs, Olivia's true desires. I switched to the camera in the hallway, my heart quickening. Jessica, my sweet granddaughter, appeared at the top of the stairs, dressed in her pajamas, her long brown hair gathered in a messy bun. She moved with cautious stealth, tiptoeing past the living room where her father was now slumped, heading towards the kitchen. I followed her through the kitchen camera. Jessica retrieved a bottle of water from the refrigerator, her movements hesitant. Her gaze fell upon the basement door, specifically on the key still in the lock. She froze, her eyes widening. Had she guessed? Had she overheard Amanda's cruel words? Jessica took a few tentative steps towards the door, then glanced over her shoulder, a quick, furtive check for unseen eyes. Then, to my utter astonishment, she slowly turned the key and eased the door open a crack. "Grandma," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Are you in there?" I almost dropped my phone in disbelief. How could she possibly know? I quickly tucked the phone into the pocket of my dress and rose to my feet, my legs unsteady after hours of confinement. "Yes, Jessica," I answered, trying to keep my voice low, a raspy whisper after hours of disuse. "I'm here." The door swung wider, revealing my granddaughter's face, bathed in the dim, orange glow of the heater. Her eyes, already wide with shock, grew even larger as she took in my appearance, my disheveled state. "Grandma," she exclaimed, her voice thick with horror and disbelief as she hurried down the steps. "You're really here. I heard Mom tell Daniel she locked you up, but I hoped she was just kidding." Alas, she wasn't, I said bitterly, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. Jessica came closer, her face contorted with a mixture of worry, shame, and nascent anger. It's terrible. I can't believe she did this. She lowered her head, her voice barely a whisper. And I can't believe Dad let her. Your father, he's in a difficult situation, sweet pea, I said, unable to bring myself to fully condemn Michael in front of his daughter, even though he had earned every bit of my condemnation. No, Grandma, Jessica shook her head, her eyes meeting mine with a surprising maturity. Don't make excuses for him. I heard them discussing sending you to a nursing home. I heard Daddy agree, even though he didn't look happy, but he agreed anyway. I sighed. My granddaughter, it seemed, was far more perceptive and intelligent than I had given her credit for. You're right, dear. And that's not the only thing they did. I paused, weighing how much truth to share with a 17-year-old girl, yet feeling an overwhelming need to be honest with her. They were taking money out of my accounts without my permission. Jessica didn't look surprised. I guess something was wrong. For the past few months, Mom had been getting expensive new things. And when I asked where the money was coming from, she said it was a lucky investment. Suddenly, Amanda's voice, sharp and demanding, cut through the quiet of the house from upstairs. Jessica. Where are you? My granddaughter flinched, her eyes wide with fear as she looked at me. She mustn't know I'm here, she whispered, her voice tight with panic. She'll be furious. I nodded, understanding her fear. Jessica knew better than anyone what Amanda was capable of when her temper flared. Go away, I urged, my voice firm despite the tremor in my own heart. Pretend you just went to the kitchen to get water. Jessica hesitated, clearly torn between her fear of her mother and her desperate reluctance to abandon me in the cellar. But what about you? She whispered, her eyes pleading. I can't just walk away and leave you here. It's okay, I assured her, my voice gaining strength. I have my phone, and I've already called Talitha. She's contacted the police. They'll be here soon. Aunt Talitha? Jessica's eyes widened even further, a mix of shock and dawning comprehension. But Mom and Dad said you haven't spoken to each other in years. It's a long story, I said, I'll tell it later. Right now, you'd better go before Amanda comes down to check. Jessica. Amanda's voice called again, closer now, laced with rising irritation. My granddaughter took a hesitant step towards the stairs, then turned back to me, her young face a battleground of conflicting emotions. I can't just leave you here, she said firmly, a newfound resolve in her voice. It's not right. The police will be here soon, I reminded her, keeping my voice calm. I need you to be safe when they get here. Please, Jessica, go. She was still wavering, torn between her fear of her mother's wrath and her fierce desire to help me. I could see the painful struggle on her young face, see her weighing her options, trying to make a decision that no 17-year-old should ever have to bear. Jessica. Where are you? Amanda's voice was even closer, her irritation now palpable, a sharp edge that cut through the silence. My granddaughter, caught between fear and a burgeoning sense of justice, finally made a choice. I'll come back for you. Jessica whispered, her voice filled with a promise that felt as strong as any vow. I promise. As soon as the words left her lips, she turned and raced up the stairs, closing the door behind her, but deliberately leaving it unlocked. I heard her encounter Amanda in the kitchen. Where have you been, young lady? Amanda demanded, her voice thick with suspicion. Just getting water, Jessica replied, and in her voice, I detected for the first time the subtle echoes of the deceptive art she must have learned from her mother. I was thirsty. What took you so long? Amanda pressed, unwilling to let it go. I was looking for my bottle, the blue one, Jessica answered quickly, a plausible lie. I couldn't find it anywhere. There was a brief, tense pause. Then Amanda's voice, cold and final. Go to bed. It's getting late. What about Grandma? Jessica asked, and I held my breath, fearing she would betray our secret. What about Grandma? Amanda's voice turned icy. She's at a friend's house, isn't she? When will she be back? Clever girl, I thought, acknowledging Jessica's quick thinking and veiled defiance. Tomorrow, Amanda answered curtly. Now, go to bed. I heard footsteps retreating, and breathed a sigh of profound relief. Jessica was safe, for now. I returned to my phone, checking the cameras. The living room was almost empty, only Daniel lounging in an armchair with a glass of whiskey, and Michael half-sprawled on the couch. Amanda appeared from the kitchen, a look of profound annoyance etched on her face. Everyone's finally gone, she declared, sinking onto the couch next to Michael. This party was absolutely exhausting. You threw it yourself, you know, Michael slurred, his voice a mixture of weariness and quiet condemnation. To maintain my social standing, dear, Amanda retorted, rolling her eyes. By the way, we must remember to let the old woman out of the basement. Daniel snorted. Why don't we just leave her down there for the night, as a lesson? Amanda grinned, a flicker of cruelty in her eyes. Tempting, but no. We don't want her to have any real reason to complain. She stretched languidly. I'll go in half an hour. Let her sit a while longer. Give her time to really think about her behavior. The blood rushed to my face, a fresh surge of incandescent fury. Think about her behavior? As if I were a naughty child deserving of punishment, not a 72-year-old woman illegally locked in a basement on her own birthday. My phone vibrated, a text message from Talitha. The police are on their way. I'm 10 minutes away. Hang in there, Mom. I took a deep, shuddering breath, trying to calm the tempest raging within me. Soon, this nightmare would be over. Soon, justice would arrive. Suddenly, the basement door, which Jessica had left unlocked, swung open again. My granddaughter stood there, still in her pajamas, clutching her jacket. Grandma, she whispered, her eyes wide, they're all in the living room drinking. Now would be a good time to make your move. I hesitated, a moment of internal conflict. Talitha's plan had been for me to remain hidden, safely ensconced in the basement until the police arrived. But a fierce, unyielding impulse surged through me. Wouldn't it be more impactful to confront them, to witness their faces when their monstrous scheme unraveled before their very eyes? Talitha said the police would be here soon, I whispered back. Maybe we should wait for them. What if they don't believe us? Jessica countered, her voice laced with a raw, desperate logic. What if Mom and Dad convince them that you just forgot, that you went down to the basement by yourself, or that you're not yourself? She faltered, the unspoken implication hanging heavy in the damp air. There was a chilling truth in her words. Amanda was a master manipulator, a chameleon of deceit. She possessed an uncanny ability to twist reality, to paint lies as undeniable truths. Even with the irrefutable evidence on my phone, the police might dismiss it as a mere family dispute, a senile old woman's delusion against the word of respectable adults. You're right, I said, my voice firm, all hesitation vanishing. This charade had gone on long enough. It was time for the curtain to fall. Jessica helped me up the steep, rickety stairs, her youthful strength supporting my trembling frame. My heart hammered against my ribs, a furious drumbeat of fear and grim determination. I didn't know how they would react, but I knew, with absolute certainty, that I would not remain silent any longer. We emerged into the cool, silent expanse of the kitchen, pausing for a moment to listen to the muffled sounds from the living room. They were still engrossed in their celebratory haze, Amanda's voice bragging about how impressed Michael's boss's wife had been by her new outfit. Ready? Jessica whispered, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and courageous resolve. I nodded, straightened my shoulders, and walked out of the kitchen into the living room, my head held high, my gaze fixed on the trio of conspirators. Jessica followed close behind, her small hand firmly gripping my arm, her presence a silent, unwavering testament to the truth. For a single, agonizing second, the room plunged into complete silence. The laughter died, conversations evaporated, and the clinking of glasses ceased. Amanda froze, her wine glass halfway to her lips, her eyes widening in undisguised shock, a deer caught in the headlights. Michael, slumped on the couch, straightened abruptly, his face paling to an ashen white. Daniel, ever the predator, flinched almost imperceptibly, but quickly regained his composure, his features hardening into a mask of wary calculation. "Mom?" Michael was the first to break the suffocating silence, his voice a mere tremor, thick with disbelief. "What are you? I thought you were in the basement." "I was," I answered, my voice steady, imbued with a newfound authority. "Your wife locked me in there more than 3 hours ago. On my birthday." Amanda, ever the quick-witted manipulator, sprang into action. "Michael. Eleanor, don't be absurd. Nobody locked you in. You must have locked yourself in and then forgotten about it." Her eyes narrowed as she turned on Jessica. "What are you doing, young lady?" "I told you to go to bed." "I couldn't leave my grandmother in the cellar," Jessica replied, her voice surprisingly firm, a defiant tremor that was entirely her own. "What you did was awful, Mother." "Jessica!" Amanda shrieked, her face contorted with incandescent rage. "Go to your room at once." "No," Jessica countered, crossing her arms stubbornly across her chest. "I'm staying with Grandma." Amanda advanced, her eyes flashing with a dangerous, feral light. "You don't know what you're talking about. Your grandmother is out of her mind. She's confusing reality with fiction." No more lies, Amanda," I interrupted, pulling my smartphone from my pocket, its screen a beacon of damning truth. "The game is over." "What do you mean?" she demanded, but the panic in her voice was undeniable, a thin crack in her carefully constructed facade. "I know everything," I stated, my voice ringing with clarity. "About your plans to send me to Silverwood House. About you and Daniel stealing money from my accounts. About how you've been intercepting Talitha's letters all these years. About everything." Amanda's face turned ghastly pale, but her survival instinct was strong. She quickly composed herself, her eyes darting to Michael. "It's nonsense. Michael, your mother is completely out of her mind. We should seriously consider professional help for her." Michael looked from me to his wife, clearly paralyzed by indecision, caught between two warring truths. "Amanda, maybe we should." "Shut up, Michael." Amanda snapped, her voice sharp as a razor. "You can see she's not herself." "Oh, I'm more than sane," I declared, my thumb swiping to the camera app on my phone. "And I have proof." I turned the screen towards them, and the three of them watched, horrified, as the kitchen camera footage played back, Amanda and Daniel, their faces illuminated by the harsh glow of the screen, discussing their vile plan to dispose of me and seize my money. "What the hell was that?" Amanda shrieked, her voice rising an octave, her composure utterly shattered. "Were you spying on us? Put cameras in our house?" "My house," I corrected, my voice cutting through her hysteria. "The house I bought with my money. And yes, I installed cameras after my belongings started going missing. Richard's pearl earrings, my mother's brooch, my diary. Did you truly think I wouldn't notice?" Daniel, who had remained remarkably calm until this moment, finally spoke, his tone deceptively smooth, a last-ditch effort to salvage control. "Eleanor, you've misunderstood. We did discuss the possibility of transferring you to a specialized facility, but purely out of concern for your health and well-being. And as far as finances are concerned, all transactions were completely legal and with your consent." "My consent?" I laughed bitterly, a harsh, humorless sound. "You mean those forged signatures?" I flipped through my phone, displaying a screenshot of a document with a crudely forged signature, starkly different from my own elegant script. "That's not my signature, Daniel, and we both know it." For the first time, I saw genuine fear flicker in his eyes, his polished facade cracking. "These documents were signed by Michael on your behalf, with your verbal consent. It's standard practice." "Liar," I said calmly, my voice firm as bedrock. "I never gave such consent, and Michael knows it." I turned my full attention to my son, whose face was now whiter than chalk, his eyes fixed on the floor. "Tell me, Michael, did you truly believe I wouldn't find out? That I would meekly allow you to send me to Silverwood House, sell my home, and embezzle my life savings?" Michael slowly raised his head, his eyes brimming with tears, unable to meet my gaze. I thought it was best for everyone. You need supervision, Mom, and Amanda, and I can't. Don't lie now, Michael, I interrupted him, my voice devoid of mercy. You weren't thinking about looking after me. You were thinking about money. About the $320,000 you were planning to get when you sold the house. About the boat you wanted to buy with that money. Jessica's eyes widened with profound shock, her gaze snapping between her father and me. Dad, is that true? Michael didn't answer, his shoulders slumping under the crushing weight of shame and exposure. Amanda, however, was not going to surrender without a fight. It's all lies, she shrieked, though her voice now carried a distinct tremor of desperation. You can't prove anything you say, and these so-called recordings can be faked. Who would believe a senile old woman against the word of 3 respectable adults? I will, a clear, strong voice resonated from the front door. We all turned as one. Talitha stood framed in the doorway, a figure of resolute strength. Beside her stood a uniformed police officer, Officer Ramirez, and a tall man in a meticulously tailored suit, whom I immediately recognized as Adam Lawrence, the lawyer. Talitha? Michael gasped, his shock at his sister's sudden appearance overriding all other emotions. What are you doing here? Saving our mother from the 3 of you, she answered coldly, her voice brimming with a quiet fury. Then, she turned to me, a warm, tender smile breaking through her steely resolve. Mom, are you okay? I nodded, feeling tears of pure relief well in my eyes at the sight of my daughter. I am now. Amanda, ever the opportunist, quickly switched tactics, a forced, brittle smile appearing on her face. Talitha, darling, what a pleasant surprise. We certainly didn't expect to see you after all these years. I'm sure you didn't, Talitha replied dryly, her eyes cutting into Amanda. Especially since you've been intercepting my letters and calls all these years. She turned to Officer Ramirez, her voice calm and professional. Officer Ramirez, this is my mother, Eleanor Vance, the one I spoke with you about. She was illegally locked in the basement by these 3 individuals. In addition, there has been extensive financial fraud, for which we possess irrefutable documentary evidence. The officer nodded, his expression grim, and stepped forward. Mrs. Vance, do you wish to press charges against these individuals? Yes, I answered firmly, my voice unwavering. I do. Amanda's face contorted with impotent rage. This is ridiculous. You can't just barge into our house and, it's not your house, the man in the suit, Adam Lawrence, interrupted her, his voice commanding. According to the deeds I've examined, this house was purchased with Mrs. Eleanor Vance's money, although it's technically in her son's name. However, given the circumstances and the compelling evidence of fraud we will present in court, ownership may very well be challenged. He pulled a thick sheaf of documents from his briefcase. This, furthermore, is a temporary restraining order, legally prohibiting anyone other than Mrs. Eleanor Vance from accessing her financial accounts. Also, here is a court order to preserve all electronic and paper documents related to her finances. Any attempt to destroy or alter these documents will be considered obstruction of justice and met with severe legal repercussions. Daniel, who had managed to maintain a facade of composure until this very moment, suddenly turned an even paler shade of green, his eyes wide with dawning horror. You can't do that. This investment was made with the full consent obtained by fraud, Mr. Campbell, Adam interrupted him, his voice sharp as a whip. Or through the use of forged signatures. Either way, it constitutes a serious violation of the law. I'm quite certain the Securities and Exchange Commission will be exceedingly interested in a thorough examination of your activities. Daniel's complexion took on a distinctly sickly, yellowish tint. Officer Ramirez took another deliberate step forward. Mr. Campbell, he stated, his voice calm and authoritative, I need to ask you some questions in connection with the allegations of financial fraud and abuse of an elderly individual. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be provided for you. While the officer methodically read Daniel his Miranda rights, I watched Amanda and Michael, their reactions a stark contrast. My daughter-in-law looked as if her meticulously constructed world, her entire edifice of lies and self-serving ambition, was crumbling before her very eyes, which, in fact, it was. Her carefully cultivated plan to dispose of me and usurp my money was disintegrating into dust. Michael looked utterly devastated, a broken man. He sat with his head bowed, unable to meet my gaze, or Talitha's, or even Jessica's, who looked at him with an expression of profound disappointment and aching pain in her young eyes. "How could you, Dad?" Jessica asked quietly, her voice barely a whisper, yet it cut through the tension like a knife. "How could you do that to Grandma?" Michael slowly raised his head, his eyes brimming with hot, desperate tears. I didn't know, honey. I didn't realize it would go this far. Amanda said that mom would be happier in an institution, that she needed professional care. Don't you dare put this on me, Michael. Amanda shrieked, her voice sharp with fury, completely abandoning her pretense of innocence. You knew exactly what was going on. You signed the documents. You took the money. You agreed to sell the house because you gave me no choice. Michael finally exploded, his voice rising, a guttural cry of frustration and despair. It was the first time I had ever heard him truly raise his voice against his wife. You said that if we didn't do it, we'd lose the house, that we wouldn't be able to pay for Jessica's college. That's enough, Michael. Amanda interrupted him, her voice dripping with venom. Don't you dare try to shift the blame onto me. You were more than happy to spend your mother's money on a new car for yourself, and you were planning to buy that ridiculous boat. They continued to bicker, their voices spiraling into a cacophony of mutual recrimination, spewing years of accumulated resentment and manipulation, but I was no longer listening. My attention was wholly focused on Talitha, who walked over to me, her face soft with compassion, and gently took my hand, her touch grounding me. Let's go, Mom, she said softly, her voice an anchor in the storm. You don't need to listen to this anymore. I'm taking you home. Home? I asked, the words sounding foreign, suddenly realizing that after 5 years of living in this house, I no longer knew where my true home was. To me, Talitha clarified, her smile warm and unwavering. To Robert and me, and little Richard. He's so looking forward to seeing you. At the mention of a grandson I'd never met, a child named after my late husband, my heart swelled with a wave of emotion so profound it stole my breath. Does he really know about me? I whispered, my voice thick with unshed tears. Of course, Talitha smiled, her eyes shining with love. I've told him about you every single day. I've shown him pictures of you. He calls you Grandma Eleanor and asks when you're coming to visit almost constantly. New tears streamed down my cheeks, but these were not tears of bitterness or resentment. They were tears of profound relief, of overwhelming hope. I still had a family, a real family, bound not by deceit and greed, but by genuine connection and love. Jessica came toward us, her face etched with worry, her gaze still fixed on her warring parents. What about me? She asked quietly, her voice small and vulnerable. Can I visit my grandmother too? Talitha smiled at her niece, her arm gently circling her shoulders, offering comfort. Of course, sweetheart. You are always welcome in our home, and your cousin, little Richard, will be absolutely thrilled to meet you. Jessica managed a weak smile, but her eyes were still clouded with anxiety. What will happen to Mom and Dad now? Talitha sighed, her professional demeanor returning briefly. It depends on many factors, honey, on the court's decision, on how much they choose to cooperate with the investigation. But one thing I can say for sure is that you won't be alone. We're going to help you through this, every step of the way. As we spoke, Officer Ramirez methodically led Daniel Campbell away, who looked utterly shattered, his expensive suit now seeming to hang loosely on his defeated frame. Amanda and Michael continued their vicious argument, blaming each other, their voices escalating into angry shouts, their mutual destruction laid bare for all to witness. "Let's get out of here, Mom," Talitha suggested gently, guiding me towards the front door. "Officer Ramirez said they would contact us tomorrow for an official statement. Right now, you just need your rest." I nodded, feeling a sudden, bone-deep exhaustion settle over me. This day, which had begun with such profound bitterness and betrayal, was now ending with an unexpected, radiant glimmer of hope. I cast one last, lingering glance at Michael. Our eyes met for a fleeting moment across the chaotic room. In his gaze, I saw not only shame and remorse, but a dawning, terrible realization, the painful truth that he had lost something infinitely more precious than money. He had lost the unwavering trust, the unconditional love, of his mother. "Come on, Mom," Talitha repeated, her gentle tug urging me forward. I allowed my daughter to lead me out of a house that had never truly been mine, towards a new life, with a family that, I now knew with absolute certainty, truly loved me. 2 months later, I sat on the spacious, sun-drenched veranda of Talitha's home, watching little Richard, my grandson, play in the vibrant, sprawling garden. He was a miniature, animated version of his namesake, my beloved Arthur, the same curious, intelligent blue eyes, the same infectious, heartwarming smile that made my heart swell with a bittersweet joy every single time I saw it. Next to me sat Robert, Talitha's husband. He was a man of quiet strength and profound kindness, utterly unlike the malicious caricature Michael had painted of him. Robert was indeed a gifted musician, but he was also a highly respected teacher at the Riverside School of the Arts, possessing a stable, fulfilling job and a deep, artistic talent that I was only just beginning to truly appreciate. He filled the house with the melodic strains of his guitar, a comforting backdrop to our new, peaceful life. Talitha emerged onto the veranda, carrying a tray laden with warm mugs of herbal tea, the steam rising in fragrant tendrils into the afternoon air. "How are you feeling, Mom?" she asked, her voice soft with genuine concern, as she settled into the chair beside me. "Better," I answered honestly, taking a sip of the soothing tea. "Better every day." And it was true. The initial weeks after my move had been undeniably difficult, fraught with lingering nightmares and waves of anxiety, a persistent phantom sensation of being trapped in a stranger's house. The trauma of the past was not easily erased. But Talitha, Robert, and little Richard had surrounded me with an abundance of genuine care, unwavering patience, and unconditional love. They had woven a cocoon of warmth and acceptance around me, and gradually, slowly, painstakingly, I had begun to shed the layers of fear and grief, starting to feel truly at home, truly safe. The familiar feeling of oppression, of being watched, had receded, replaced by an intoxicating sense of freedom. The legal processes, though arduous and emotionally taxing, continued to unfold with a steady, relentless momentum. Daniel Campbell, the architect of my financial ruin, was indeed arrested for a wide array of financial fraud charges. The extensive investigation, spearheaded by Adam Lawrence and supported by Talitha's keen insights, soon revealed that I was far from his only victim. A vast network of unsuspecting elderly individuals had been systematically defrauded, their life savings siphoned away by his elaborate schemes. News reports highlighted his shocking betrayal, detailing the cunning methods he employed and the staggering sums he had illicitly accumulated. It was a grim satisfaction to know that justice would be served, not just for me, but for the many others he had so cruelly exploited. Olivia Holloway, my former daughter-in-law, faced severe charges as well, accessory to fraud and elder abuse. Her meticulously crafted facade had shattered, revealing the calculating, ruthless woman beneath. Her once thriving nail salon, a symbol of her shallow ambition, became a target of public scorn and boycott. She was eventually forced to sell it at a mere fraction of its worth, a small but undeniable taste of karmic retribution. Her carefully curated social circle, once eager to bask in her fabricated glamour, swiftly evaporated, leaving her isolated and exposed to the harsh glare of reality. Michael, my son, faced the most complex emotional and legal path. Given his cooperation with the investigation and his eventual guilty plea to lesser charges, his legal consequences were less severe than Daniel's or Olivia's. However, his professional life suffered immensely. His complicity, though less direct, was now widely known within his company, and his career advancement effectively stalled. He was relegated to a tedious, isolated role, a quiet demotion that served as a constant, bitter reminder of his choices and their devastating repercussions. He had exchanged his mother's well-being for an illusion of security and material gain, only to find himself stripped of both respect and opportunity. The weight of his actions, the shame, was a burden he would carry indefinitely. Attorney Adam Lawrence, my unwavering legal champion, continued to work tirelessly on my behalf. He had already succeeded in recovering a significant portion of my embezzled funds, a monumental task given the complexity of Daniel's financial machinations. As for the house on Magnolia Drive, the protracted trial over its ownership continued. The prospects were overwhelmingly favorable for me, given the irrefutable evidence of my substantial original payment and Michael's damning testimony confirming it. I harbored no desire to return to that house, to inhabit its walls that whispered of betrayal and confinement. But regaining full legal ownership, asserting my rightful claim, was paramount. It was a tangible symbol of my regained autonomy, a defiant declaration that I would not be victimized, that my past would not be erased by their greed. The funds recovered from the sale of the house, once the trial concluded, would be meticulously transferred to my new, secure accounts, overseen by Talitha. Jessica, my courageous granddaughter, was now living with us, at least temporarily. After Olivia's arrest and the agonizing divorce proceedings that Michael had initiated, the courts had wisely determined that Jessica would be far better off in the nurturing, stable environment of Talitha's home. She was slowly, bravely, adjusting to a new life, a new high school, new friends, and the welcoming presence of extended family. Sometimes, in the quiet depths of the night, I would hear her muffled sobs, the echoes of a young heart grappling with an unimaginable betrayal. In those moments, I would rise, slip quietly into her room, and sit with her, holding her trembling hand, my presence a silent comfort. I reminded her, gently but firmly, that she was not to blame for her parents' actions, that their choices were their own, and that her worth was immeasurable. I vowed to be the constant, loving presence she deserved, to shield her from the lingering shadows of her parents' mistakes. Talitha, with her remarkable blend of professional expertise and boundless compassion, meticulously worked to restore my complete financial independence. With her patient guidance, I opened new, entirely secure bank accounts, accessible only to me. She walked me through the intricacies of online banking, empowering me with the knowledge and tools to manage my own finances, to monitor every transaction, to set up alerts for even the slightest anomaly. It felt exhilarating, a profound act of liberation, regaining full control over something that had been so cruelly wrested from my grasp. She also helped me meticulously prepare a new will, ensuring my wishes were clearly articulated and legally binding. And, with a deep sense of trust and unwavering confidence, I executed a new power of attorney, designating Talitha as my trusted advocate, a genuine signature this time, free from any coercion or hidden agendas. My lingering fear of being declared incompetent, of losing my autonomy and voice, slowly, finally began to recede, replaced by a quiet sense of security. The letters from Michael continued to arrive, a steady stream of remorse and agonizing self-reflection. They were thick, heavy with the weight of his guilt and regret. In them, he painstakingly detailed the insidious psychological pressure Olivia had exerted, her relentless demands for a lavish, extravagant lifestyle, her constant chipping away at his self-worth until he felt utterly trapped, convinced that succumbing to her schemes was his only escape. He spoke of his own profound shame, his deep sorrow, and his desperate, fervent hope for my forgiveness. I read each one, my heart a complex, swirling maelstrom of lingering pain, deep disappointment, and a fragile, nascent understanding. The man who poured his soul onto those pages was a stranger, yet he carried the echoes of the boy I had raised, a boy whose spirit had been twisted and corrupted by greed and manipulation. I wasn't ready for a full reconciliation, perhaps I never would be, the chasm of betrayal was too vast, too deep. But the letters, painstakingly written, offered a glimmer of a different Michael, a faint echo of the son I had once known, a man now grappling with the profound consequences of his devastating choices. This glimmer, however faint, held a fragile promise of something akin to healing, a distant possibility of repair. One glorious afternoon, as I was joyfully tending my thriving herb garden on Talitha's sun-drenched porch, meticulously pruning aromatic sprigs of lavender and rosemary that bloomed vibrantly under the warm California sun, Talitha emerged from the house. In her hand, she held a familiar object, a thick, leather-bound notebook. "Mom," she said softly, her voice carrying a note of quiet triumph, "I found this in one of Michael's old boxes in the garage when we were clearing it out for storage. I think it's yours." My heart, which had endured so much, skipped a beat, a sudden, joyous flutter. It was my diary. The diary I had kept meticulously since I was 17, filled with my most cherished memories, my deepest fears, my wildest dreams. The very diary whose disappearance had been the catalyst for me to install those hidden cameras, ultimately unraveling the monstrous conspiracy. I opened it with trembling fingers, my gaze tracing the familiar cursive script of my younger self, pages still holding the delicate imprints of pressed wildflowers and the faded ticket stubs from forgotten concerts. Olivia had taken it, no doubt hoping to unearth incriminating secrets or perhaps simply to obliterate another tangible piece of my past. But it was here, safe, miraculously returned. It was more than just a book, it was a tangible piece of my soul, a testament to my enduring spirit, a powerful symbol of myself, fully restored. The trial concerning the ownership of the house in Willow Creek continued its slow, deliberate march through the legal system. It was a tedious dance of legal arguments, counter-arguments, and the meticulous presentation of evidence. Michael's heartfelt, albeit shame-filled, testimony, combined with the irrefutable evidence of financial fraud that I had so bravely collected, painted an overwhelmingly compelling picture for the judge. The judge, a stern but ultimately fair woman, listened intently to Adam Lawrence's detailed and impassioned presentation, meticulously outlining how my hard-earned funds had been systematically drained to pay for the house that was so brazenly claimed as theirs. The ultimate verdict was still pending, a final chapter yet to be written, but a vibrant, undeniable hope now blossomed in my heart. The possibility of regaining full legal ownership of that house, of having that physical space back, not as a haunting museum of painful ghosts, but as a tangible representation of my restored independence and triumphant resilience, was an incredibly powerful motivator. I found myself dreaming of the vast, sun-drenched backyard, envisioning the potential for a thriving, vibrant garden, perhaps even a small, tranquil studio for my rediscovered passion for painting, a sanctuary where I could freely express the rich tapestry of my newfound freedom. Chloe, my incredibly courageous granddaughter, had embarked on a fresh start at a new high school in Riverside. She blossomed in the nurturing, supportive environment of Talitha's home, her once guarded laughter becoming more frequent, her expressive blue eyes brighter, brimming with a youthful vitality. She tentatively joined the school's drama club, a passion she had secretly harbored for years but never dared to pursue under Olivia's watchful, critical eye. I attended her first school play, a small but captivating role, and my heart swelled with immense pride as I watched her light up the stage, her voice clear and resonant. She was finding her true voice, a voice that had been stifled and silenced for far too long. We spent countless hours talking, sharing stories, baking those beloved chocolate chip cookies, meticulously rebuilding the deep trust that had been so cruelly shattered. She asked endless questions about Richard, my late husband, wanting to know every detail about the man she had never met, gradually understanding that his enduring legacy resided not in a material house, but in the unwavering strength, quiet integrity, and profound love he had instilled within me. The nightmares, though still present occasionally, became increasingly sporadic, their vivid, terrifying details fading into mere shadows. They were slowly, beautifully replaced by dreams filled with golden sunshine, lush gardens teeming with life, and the joyful echo of uninhibited laughter. I resumed my painting, a cherished hobby I had reluctantly abandoned years ago under the crushing weight of my grief and then Olivia's stifling, oppressive presence. I carefully set up a small easel on the veranda, capturing the vibrant hues of Talitha's flourishing garden, the playful, enchanting antics of little Richard, and the serene, majestic beauty of the nearby mountains. Each stroke of the brush was a deliberate act of reclamation, a joyous reclaiming of my creativity, my profound sense of joy, and my very authentic self. One serene evening, as the sun dipped gracefully below the horizon, painting the sky in breathtaking hues of orange, purple, and fiery red, Talitha sat beside me on the veranda. She radiated a soft, inner glow, a quiet contentment that perfectly reflected the newfound calm and peace that now pervaded our lives. "Mom," she began softly, her voice like a gentle, comforting breeze, "I spoke with Michael today." My heart tensed instinctively, a lingering residual echo of the old anxieties, a ghost of the past. I hadn't seen him since the last emotionally draining court hearing, weeks ago. He's going to therapy," she continued, her gaze thoughtful as she watched little Richard chasing the ephemeral flicker of fireflies in the twilight. "And he's doing community service. He also said he's going to try and get a transfer at work, to another branch, away from Daniel." A glimmer of something akin to relief, or perhaps just a faint easing of the constant tension that had resided in my chest for so long, surfaced within me. "He's trying, Mom," Talitha added, her voice tinged with a quiet hope. "He truly is." I nodded slowly, watching my grandson's tiny, flickering lights, which seemed to mirror the fragile, nascent hope rekindling within my own weary heart. "I know, darling. I see it." Forgiveness, I knew with profound certainty, was not a single, instantaneous event, a simple switch that could be flipped. It was, instead, a long, arduous journey, a winding, uphill path fraught with inevitable obstacles, painful relapses, and moments of profound emotional reckoning. And I was only just beginning to take the first, tentative steps on that difficult road. It might take years, perhaps even decades, but the door to reconciliation was no longer entirely shut. A sliver of light, however faint, now shone through the cracks, promising a distant, yet tangible, possibility of healing. The pervasive ripple effect of Olivia and Daniel's actions extended far beyond our immediate family, reaching into the wider community. The extensive investigation into Daniel Campbell's deceptively named Campbell Investment Fund uncovered a much larger, more insidious web of deceit, ensnaring dozens of other vulnerable elderly individuals who had been similarly defrauded. News reports, splashed across local headlines and national broadcasts, relentlessly highlighted his sensational arrest, meticulously detailing the elaborate schemes he employed and the staggering, illicit sums of money he had shamelessly stolen from unsuspecting seniors. It served as a stark, chilling reminder that I was not alone in my suffering, and a grim, almost cathartic satisfaction settled upon me, knowing that others would finally find justice, perhaps even recover their lost savings, thanks to the irrefutable evidence I had unwittingly collected in my desperate confinement. Olivia's once thriving nail salon, the very symbol of her shallow ambition and fabricated success, became a relentless target of public scorn, widespread boycotts, and relentless media scrutiny. Its once gleaming reputation was tarnished beyond repair. She was eventually forced to sell it at a mere fraction of its worth, a small but undeniable taste of karmic retribution, a bitter pill she was forced to swallow. Her carefully curated social circle, once so eager to bask in her fabricated glamour and perceived success, swiftly evaporated into thin air, leaving her utterly isolated and exposed to the harsh, unforgiving glare of reality. Michael, my son, also faced profound professional repercussions. His undeniable complicity, though less direct than Olivia's or Daniel's, was now tragically public knowledge within his company. While he was permitted to retain his employment, his once promising career advancement effectively stalled, brought to a grinding halt. He was relegated to a tedious, isolated, and increasingly insignificant role, a quiet demotion that served as a constant, bitter reminder of his devastating choices and their far-reaching consequences. He had, in his profound short-sightedness, exchanged his mother's well-being and dignity for an elusive illusion of financial security and transient material gain, only to find himself mercilessly stripped of both respect and tangible opportunity. The weight of his actions, the pervasive shame, was a heavy burden he would undoubtedly carry for an indefinite period. Chloe's remarkable growth and inspiring resilience during this tumultuous period were truly heartwarming. She embarked on a new path, dedicating her free afternoons to volunteering at a local animal shelter, passionately caring for abandoned and neglected pets. In this selfless act, she discovered a profound passion for photography, meticulously capturing fleeting moments of raw beauty and powerful emotion with an instinctively artistic eye. Her candid conversations about her burgeoning feelings, her struggles with her parents' betrayal, and her burgeoning hopes for the future were a testament to her astonishing resilience and unwavering spirit. She was bravely forging her own authentic identity, one distinctly separate from the suffocating shadows of her parents' tragic mistakes. Her bond with Talitha grew exponentially stronger with each passing day, transforming into a deep, unwavering sisterhood that transcended the conventional aunt-niece relationship. They shared intimate secrets, whispered dreams, and developed a quiet, profound understanding that brought immense comfort and solace to both. For Chloe, Talitha became a steadfast, unwavering anchor, a loving, patient guide navigating the turbulent waters of adolescence and profound disappointment. For Talitha, Chloe represented a renewed, precious connection to family, a precious gift after years of agonizing, forced separation. The house in Willow Creek, the very site of so much profound pain, betrayal, and unjust confinement, was eventually, and with a sense of immense closure, sold. The substantial proceeds from its sale were meticulously managed by Adam Lawrence, my unwavering legal champion, to meticulously recover my initial investment and comprehensively compensate for the vast sums of embezzled funds. The legal complexities involved were immense, a labyrinthine maze of documents and proceedings, but Adam, a true and unwavering champion for the vulnerable, navigated them with unwavering determination and profound expertise. The final settlement, while not entirely restoring every single penny, provided me with a substantial and secure financial foundation, ensuring my continued independence, dignity, and unwavering security for the remainder of my days. It was a bittersweet victory, tinged with the sadness of what had been lost, yet resonating with the triumph of what had been regained. I harbored no lingering desire to ever return to that house, to inhabit its walls that whispered haunting tales of betrayal and unjust confinement. But regaining full legal ownership, asserting my rightful claim, was absolutely paramount. It was a profound symbol of my regained autonomy, a defiant, unwavering declaration that I would not be victimized, that my past would not be summarily erased by their insidious greed. The recovered funds from the sale of the house, once the protracted trial finally concluded, would be meticulously transferred to my new, secure bank accounts, diligently overseen and protected by Talitha. My health, which had suffered immensely under the relentless burden of stress and emotional trauma, began its slow, arduous journey of improvement. The constant, crushing weight of the past slowly lifting, I found myself experiencing a newfound, almost exhilarating surge of renewed energy and vitality. I cautiously took up gentle yoga classes, discovering a profound sense of peace and strength in the deliberate movements. I spent increasingly more time walking in the tranquil embrace of nature, finding solace and healing in the rustling leaves and the gentle murmur of the wind. I cultivated a small, vibrant herb garden on Talitha's sunny porch, finding a grounding sense of purpose and profound solace in the simple, timeless act of nurturing life. The fragrant herbs, their delicate scents of lavender and rosemary perfuming the air, brought a sense of profound peace, a tangible connection to the earth that anchored me firmly in the present moment. I also discovered a wonderful, supportive community in a local support group specifically for elder abuse survivors. It was a sanctuary where I could fearlessly share my deeply personal experiences without judgment, where I could listen with empathy to others' heartbreaking stories, and where I could offer my own hard-won wisdom and strength. It was a community forged in shared pain, but now radiating resilience, healing, and an unwavering testament to the indomitable human spirit's boundless capacity for profound recovery. The future remained uncertain in many ways, an unwritten chapter yet to unfold. The court's final, weighty decision on Olivia and Daniel's sentences, Michael's long, arduous path to true redemption, all these significant outcomes were yet to be fully determined. But for the very first time in what felt like an agonizing eternity, uncertainty no longer felt like a terrifying, insurmountable threat. It felt, instead, like an exhilarating, boundless possibility. It felt like choice, a powerful reclaiming of my own destiny. At 72 years old, I was not merely surviving, I was undeniably flourishing, blooming in the warm sunlight of newfound freedom. I had triumphantly rediscovered my voice, boldly reclaimed my inherent dignity, and painstakingly rebuilt my family, not just through biological ties, but through the profound, unwavering bonds of shared spirit and unconditional love. The quiet, serene evenings I had once wistfully imagined were now joyfully filled with the vibrant, sometimes chaotic, yet always loving sounds of a true household, the sweet, comforting scent of fresh-baked cookies wafting through the air, and the comforting, steadfast presence of those who truly cared. My old rocking chair was no longer a poignant symbol of quiet decline or forgotten sorrow, but a comfortable, welcoming perch from which to lovingly watch my rich, vibrant new life unfold, a life infinitely richer, more authentic, and more profoundly meaningful than any I could have possibly dreamed of before. My story, once cruelly stolen and maliciously twisted, was now unequivocally mine to tell, a powerful testament to indomitable resilience, to the enduring, unbreakable power of genuine family connection, and to the unwavering, profound belief that true wealth resides not in fleeting bank accounts or material houses, but in these precious, irreplaceable moments, in these deep, unbreakable connections, and in this boundless, unwavering love that no one, no matter how cunning or cruel, could ever truly steal. The sun, finally, was setting on old hurts, but a glorious, radiant new dawn was truly breaking.